the Rowdy Book Addict, coming at you with this week's book podcast. Enjoy. Hello, everybody. I'd like to talk to you about a book I just read called Farewell, My Lovely by Raymond Chandler. Here we are back with private detective Philip Marlowe in the golden age of Hollywood, which would be the 1930s, 1950s in Hollywood, California, around the LA area. In this particular tale, Marlowe is scoping out a place, and he runs into a random person off the street. The random person sort of takes him hostage, and they end up visiting this establishment. Meanwhile, the random guy, who is known as Moose Malloy, is actually looking for his sweetheart from about 8 years ago. Because Moose Malloy, he just got out of jail for a bank robbery racket, and he's looking for the girl that used to be his prior to that. Well, meanwhile, at this establishment, Moose ends up getting into a fight, and Marlowe becomes a witness to somebody being killed. So, of course, he's got to deal with the cops, the usual song and dance in his case. But then he gets another call about another case. And this is a guy who made an arrangement with some crooks, and he's feeling rather cagey about it, and he wants some backup. And so Marlowe agrees to go with him to help support him in this endeavor, and something goes wrong, and yet another murder happens, and Marlowe is at the wrong place at the wrong time again. So he's buddy heads with the detectives of LA and a suburb called Bay City, and they're telling him to stay out of the case. And he's trying to figure out, let's help Moose Malloy find his girl. Meanwhile, where is Moose Malloy? And what the heck is with this guy that called me up for this jewel heist and gets murdered? And so there's a lot of twists and turns and a lot of side stories. And at the end of the story, we do find out exactly who Moose Malloy's sweetheart was, the person he went to that first establishment looking for. But it is quite a tale, as the other ones that I've read by Raymond Chandler, featuring Marlowe as the main character. Chandler has a very, very interesting way of putting things, which I happen to really like. He has a very gritty and kind of like a hard-boiled, salty, down-to-the-earth style that I've grown to enjoy. So a couple of quotes that I really liked from this. And these are describing situations or people. But on page 4, he's talking about somebody that he runs into, and here's how he describes them. He looked about as inconspicuous as a tarantula on a slice of angel food. Which is, kind of obvious and rather opposite comparison there. He also talks about what the bouncer at this establishment looks like. Such as on page 7, he says, he had a battered face that looked as if it had been hit by everything but the bucket of a drag line. He also has some things to say about Bay City, such as on page 195. In Bay City, he said slowly, the name's like a song in a dirty bathtub. Another thing that's quoted is, all I need is a silver tongue, and the one I have is like a lizard's back. And that's when Marlowe is talking about what he might need in a tough situation that he doesn't already have. Anyway, that's the end. And I hope you enjoyed this podcast. And I hope that this has made you want to check out this particular book. And again, this week's book was Farewell, My Lovely by Raymond Chandler. And if you haven't discovered him yet, and you're interested in sort of gritty, get the grit beneath your fingernails type of a crime fiction, then I would recommend definitely checking this one out, and even many of the other books that Chandler wrote that featured the private detective Philip Marlowe. I tell you, I am loving these so far, and this is the 4th one that I've read. Okay, that's it for this week. Thanks for listening. Bye.